You have brought the world's greatest power to their knees for a minute because they're devastated and they don't know what to do.
And that felt good?
Good in a way, yes.
What he did to America was right.
They deserved it, not the civilians. America deserved it.
If I was Osama bin Laden, I would have ordered the killing of many more people.
Jihad, a term that has become more common in the vocabularies of Westerners since the tragic events of September 11, 2001. Jihad, often defined as holy war, is relegated to one particular religion, Islam. In fact, the terms Islam and Jihad are inseparable. But when we ask about the definition of Jihad, we seem to get a variety of answers.
It means a holy war, and it has always meant that.
Jihad in Islam can be spiritual or physical.
There's the jihad of the dawah, of evangelism, of preaching, of mission work.
So what is the true answer to the question, what is the definition of jihad? Is it an inner struggle? Is it religious and spiritual? Or is it physical, including violence and killing?
As you read the Quran, you can see places where it would, without question, apply to the spiritual struggle. So it's not a question of either or; it's both and. But for anybody to say that this is limited only to a spiritual inner struggle is absolutely not true.
The meaning of jihad is not really difficult to ascertain. One can go to the dictionaries, the encyclopedias, to Arabic lexicons. The word itself has been defined by scholars at Harvard and Oxford and Cambridge and throughout the academic world.
Physical jihad is to fight for the cause of Islam with all available means, including violence. This kind of jihad is often referred to as holy war.
There is the jihad of the heart, which means an inner struggle to resist immorality and wickedness, such as the drinking of alcohol, the eating of swine, things of this nature. The second jihad is the jihad of the lips, where one confesses faith in Islam, one retains faith in Islam, and one spreads the faith of Islam. Then thirdly, there is the jihad of the sword. Now the jihad of the sword is in two forms. That is, an official jihad or holy war in which all responsible adult Muslims are called upon to participate.
The only guarantee for Muslims to go to heaven, as we know that Muslims has 5 pillars, that's what they always present to us, but actually there's number 6 is the jihad, which always hidden. But if they complete the 5 pillars, they have no guarantee to be in heaven. But if they did jihad, then they will end it in heaven or Jannah with 70 virgin women.
A Muslim must perform 5 religious duties known as the pillars of Islam. These are the professions, prayer, almsgiving, fasting, and pilgrimage to Mecca. However, many Muslim scholars regard jihad as the 6th religious duty.
And it all has to do with the intent. If they were seeking to destroy those that they feel were attacking Islam.
And especially the violence, if they feel like the prophet or that Islam itself is being breached in some way or being violated, then indeed violence is called for.
And in this case, Osama bin Laden and those who follow him have announced a holy jihad against the West and against the great Satan America, because they perceive that Islam is under attack by Hollywood, television, the media, dress clothes, the immorality, the alcohol, the decadence. So in their mind, when they commandeered the planes and by committing suicide hit those targets, we must understand they were faithful according to Islamic standards of jihad.
Throughout recorded history, one can find numerous occasions where wars and conflicts took place over religious disputes. Among the most well-known of these are the Crusades, which took place in the 11th, 12th, and 13th centuries. But there is one very distinct difference between the Crusades and Jihad. Acts of murder by Muslims were performed in obedience to the Quran and the Hadith, whereas acts of murder by professing Christians were done in disobedience to the Bible. The roots of jihad date back to the time of a man from Arabia who was born into the Quraysh tribe in the city of Mecca in 570 AD. Muhammad, or Praised One, began receiving strange dreams and supernatural apparitions. At the age of 40, Muhammad experienced yet another of these visitations, where he was called to be the prophet and apostle of Allah, the chief of all gods worshipped at the Kaaba. Muhammad realized that his own family and tribe would not give up their worship of idols unless they were forced to do so by physical violence. And so the concept of jihad was born.
There is a story about a lady. She was sending her children to die for Islam. She sent the first one and second one and the third one, and she never cried for them. One day she heard the news that her kids die in the war, in the jihad. She sent the 5 and the 6, and when she sent number 7 and she heard the news that he died, she started crying. And all the people was amazed. Why she did not cry in all the 6, why she just cried now? And they came and asked her, why did not cry in the first 6 kids? You didn't love them that much? You love these kids more? The number 7 is more than them, that's why now you're crying for him? She said, no, I'm crying because I don't have no more children to send to die for Allah.
The true Muslims are those who surrender and submit to Allah and to the Prophet. And submitting to Allah and the Prophet, Allah in Quran orders people to kill.
For this reason, most Islamic mullahs and the clergymen, the imams, do not condemn the suicide bombers in Palestine, but rather condone it. A matter of fact, the Saudis and others, the Indonesians, the Malaysians, applaud this. The Prime Minister of Indonesia called upon more suicide bombers. So when we look at what's happening in Israel, we look what's happening in Europe, in Iraq, in the United States, Malaysia, Indonesia, be it take for example in Indonesia or Malaysia, a suicide bomber who blows up a nightclub. This is a true, valid form of jihad because it is the defense of Islam.
Martyrdom in Islam is recognized to be something great, not something small. Meaning that in all the things you have done in the world, you'll be cleansed of because you sacrificed yourself, sacrificed your body for Islam, for Allah.
In the time that you fought in Kashmir, did you kill anybody?
I personally killed a few of the soldiers in Kashmir, and it wasn't always easy.
How many people did you kill?
Put under 7, just under 7.
How did it feel to take another person's life?
It wasn't easy. It was an act of worship for me. They don't haunt me, but I remember them. How easy it is to take life, and what man is, and man is so weak. Man is so nothing. He's like a piece of a twig where you can break, and it shows. But not for 1 second do I believe I did something wrong.
Islam is an oppressive, tyrannical system that does not permit freedom of thought, freedom of expression, does not permit freedom of dialogue whatsoever. That is so completely foreign to us in the West. However, it was very familiar with people like Adolf Hitler and the Nazi regime, who had the same type of concept as far as tyranny, as far as oppression, and no freedom of thought. They had a belief system, very different, obviously, from what Islam was, but it was the pursuit of the Aryan dream, or this fanciful idea of the superiority of the Aryan race and the Third Reich and all, but nonetheless the same type of approach.
Muhammad, in his sayings and hadith, orders people to kill. And he invaded many countries.
As I am from Sudan, and when I hear in America about the word Islam is a peace-loving religion, I wonder why I never seen this peace. I wonder why I never seen this loving religion in Sudan. All I see in Sudan is blood and killing of 2 million Christian innocent people. Over 2 million. Their homes being destroyed, their churches being destroyed, their schools being destroyed, their hospitals. All you see now, just people walking in the street naked. They have no money for food, they have no money for clothes. Yes, they have the choice if they want to have all these things, if they want to have a good life, but they must give up their religion.
He killed the Jews, Bani Qurayza, Bani Nudair, those in Khaybar, all the Jews, he killed them and took their wives and the children and sold them in Syria, and took the money and bought arms and speeds. His life story says that.
فإن إخوانكم في فلسطين ينتظرونكم على أحر من الجمر وينتظرونكم أن تثخنوا في أمريكا وفي إسرائيل فأرض الله واسعة ومصالحهم منتشرة فابذلوا أقصى ما تستطيعون لضربهم كلمة الله هي العليا.
Muslims believe if they stand in our side, whoever stands in the side of the enemy of Allah, they will go to hell. If any Muslim come and say, yes, jihad, it meant killing, and expose the teaching of Islam to the West, and because of that they stop spreading Islam in the West, then this person automatically he's standing for the enemy of Allah. He's helping to get rid of the spread of Islam. Then this person, he's gonna go to hell.
All you need to do is go and read secular history. All you need to do today is turn on the television and listen to the news and see what's going on, and you see the true picture of Islam, where it is in a dominant, power-broking situation.
عندما تتحدث عن غزوتي نيويورك وواشنطن تتحدث عن أولئك الرجال الذين غيروا مجرى التاريخ وطهروا صفحات الأمة من رجس الحكام الخائنين وأتباعهم بغض النظر عن أسمائهم ومسمياتهم. تتحدث عن رجال لا أقول أنهم حطموا مبنى وزارة، فهذا أمر يسير، ولكنهم حطموا هبل العصر وحطموا قيم هبل العصر. هؤلاء الرجال العظام جذروا الإيمان في قلوب المؤمنين وأكدوا عقيدة الولاء والبراء ونسفوا مخططات الصليب بحكام المنطقة عبر عشرات السنين لتمييع عقيدة الولاء والبراء. وإن المقام لا يتسع لذكر هؤلاء الرجال بما هم أهله، والقلم يعجز عن حصر محاسنهم ومحاسن آثار غزواتهم المباركة، إلا أننا نحاول، فما لا يدرك كله لا يترك جله.
I see in TV in Sudan is Allahu Akbar and Jihad and killing by the name of Allah and fight the Christian and Jewish. That's 24 hours in our TV in Sudan.
In an appendix in my book, Islamic Invasion, I deal with the issue of the English translations of the Quran. Now, some are made by faithful Muslims, but even when they do this, such as Yusuf Ali, which is the most popular English translator of the Quran throughout the Western world, he takes great liberty in order to avoid offending Westerners who read the English translation.
It is a typical way for the Muslim when they polish Islam by choosing words that doesn't completely mean the original word. This is a way to polish Islam and make it more attractive to the Western reader.
For this reason, he adds words like where the Quran says, "Say not that Allah is one of three." Yusuf Ali adds the words, "Say not that Allah is one of three in a trinity." Now the words "in a trinity" do not appear in the Arabic, but it does appear in the English. Not only do these English translations add words, they also take away words or they soften it. For example, when the Quran says that if you have a rebellious wife, after various steps of admonition, and then you don't sleep with them, they're relegated to the couch, you may beat them. Now, the Arabic word is the word used for the beating of camels and criminals. And it covers a vicious beating. So under most Islamic countries, if a husband took a cane pole and struck his wife, and she went to the police, they would probably beat her with a cane pole, because under Islamic law, beating one's wife is a Quranic right given by Allah himself in the Quran. But in order not to offend Westerners, some translators would say lightly beat her lightly, or lightly strike her, or tap her. One tried to translate it, tap her lightly on the wrist. Now one could imagine trying to get a criminal to move or a camel to get up by just tapping lightly.
The word that is being used many times in the Quran, the word qatilu. Qatilu is much stronger than fight. It is more like fight until death.
And one must remember this too. The Quran is divided into two periods. There is the Meccan period, and there is also the Medinan period. In the Meccan surahs, these are the early surahs when Muhammad was in the city of Mecca, and he only had a few followers, and he preached tolerance. He said, there's no compulsion in Islam. Let's all get along, go along.
These verses are in the Quran of Mecca. when the Prophet was weak, Islam was weak. So he said, oh, no compulsion. I came just to tell you the truth. We are one, Christians, Jews, all people, we are one in Mecca.
So when you go to the Quran and you want to find statements that teach tolerance, you have to go to these early Meccan surahs when he was small and without power.
So when he went to Al-Madinah, there's another face of Islam. I wrote a book about the two faces of Islam, the hidden and manifest. Islam of Mecca and Islam of Medina. In Medina, Muhammad was a military leader. He said, kill anybody who does not believe in Islam. Even those, the people of the book, who are Jews and Christians. If they don't become Muslims, kill them.
Fighting in the Quran was first forbidden to the Muslim, then it was permitted, and after that it was made obligatory.
The verses in Medina deleted all the verses of Mecca, and they believe in deleting verses.
The doctrine of abrogation means that when Allah now speaks, he simply cancels what was said before. So in the later Medinan surahs, that's where you find Muhammad saying, Allah has abrogated all of this tolerance business. So you can't legitimately quote those parts of the Quran that talk about no compulsion and talk about peace, because they were negated by the Meccan. And that's where it says to go forth and to wage war with Christians and Jews and pagans until either they accept Islam or surrender to have the tax imposed or go into exile. And any honest Muslim scholar will tell you that there is this distinction between the Meccan and the Medinan surahs. And when those Muslims quote the Meccan surahs, which preach tolerance, and they don't tell the Western audience, and they pretend this is Islam teaching tolerance, they know what they're doing is a trick.
The verb kill is taken qatilu, killing, which is translated in English fight, but it is in the Arabic version is kill. Qatilu, qatala, to kill.
Most of the time it is the word kill in Arabic, but they will use some euphemism, wage war, make jihad.
Qatilu means fight either until you kill or until you be killed. That word fight, qatilu. The word fight, it has a different word in Arabic, which means yuharib, which is not used too many times. But the word being used all the time, or most of the time, is qatilu.
Kill, which is translated to fight, mentioned 948 times in the verses and the sayings of Muhammad, ayat and hadith. The word jihad, or holy war, struggle, as it is commonly known, 6,898 battle, 4,258 ayah and hadith. Attacking by spears, 4,854 times. Verses and sayings of Muhammad. Attacking by bow and arrow, mentioned 2,400 times. Shedding of blood, mentioned 1951. Invasion, 798. Sariya, which heists, 1189. Sword, 1511. Murder, 710. Terror, 260. Perish, 159. Revenge, avenging, 177. Total verses and hadith.
But one must remember, it says that there are many tricksters, there are many deceivers, con men in the world, but Allah is the greatest con man of them all. And the Arabic word is the word for trickster, con man, a deceiver, and Allah is the greatest deceiver of them all. And that is usually not translated because Western people would not understand the Arabic culture, that deception, sneaking up behind someone, slitting the throat, is an honor, because in Western culture that is a dishonor.
Then this is the secret behind all this. Allah, in the Quran, His name in Arabic part, very clearly, Allah is the best of all deceivers. That's why the Muslims, they following their Allah when they deceiving us. They're using the democracy, they're using the freedom, they're using the law to get rid of the freedom. They want to deceive us until they become the majority. After that they will say, yes, jihad is killing by the name of Allah.
The essence of a religion is the Latin word religio, which means to bind you to a certain set of truth claims and ideas. This means every religion asserts that certain things are true and false, that here are certain things you should believe, and here are certain things that you should do or obey. Believe this and obey that.
If a Westerner say that jihad is based on the Quran and in the Hadith, he's not mistaken in anything that he said. It is a fact, and it is clearly stated in both holy books of Muslims.
Does anyone have the right to criticize another religion? I feel quite strongly that we need to maintain freedom of religion and freedom of conscience, freedom of speech and freedom of the press. The idea that one should not criticize another religion is itself a religious idea.
Imagine if the hate crime law was passed in America before September 11. We was going to be attacked in September 11, and at the same time we cannot speak the truth about it, we cannot warn the people about it, and we cannot speak against them, we cannot do anything against Islam. They attack us and we cannot respond. We cannot even talk about it.
Now, it is not a hate crime to speak the truth. A hate crime legally is when you seek to incite people to do acts of violence, so that if you stand up and say, kill the Christians, that's a hate crime. Burn the Bibles, that's a hate crime. Kill all apostates, that's a hate crime.
As a person born in an Arabic country, and I know the truth about Islam, my duty is to tell the people around me, what does it mean to be a Muslim? What is Islam all about? What Islam? Is Islam a religion or policy to control the world?
Now, if someone says Muhammad was a false prophet, or Jesus was not the Son of God, or the Gautama Siddhartha was Buddha, these are not hate speech. These are truth statements. These are assertions. If someone simply says Allah's a false God, or the Trinity's a false God, Jesus was not the Son of God, Muhammad was not a prophet, the Bible is not true, the Quran is not true, these are not hate statements. These are simply religious perspectives covered under the UN Declaration of Religious Rights and Freedom. One has the right to say what you believe, as long as you're not yelling fire in a building and inciting violence and riot.
Muslims who come from Saudi Arabia, from these other countries where Islam is the dominant political power, they're not allowed to speak against it. You can't even bring up a question. That's why the people are in such bondage. It is an oppressive, tyrannical religious system that does that.
The principle of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, these are not viewed in the Muslim world as human rights, but as Western ideas that are being forced upon a righteous Muslim community. Thus, to resist human rights, women's rights, religious rights, is viewed as a legitimate form of jihad.
What does it mean to be free? Where is the democracy? Where is the freedom of speech? If I cannot be able even to speak the truth? If I cannot warn the people about something that I know for sure, and I can back it from the Quran and the Hadith?
Salman Rushdie is a good example of hate speech. All the Muslims who got on the television, including Cat Stevens, who converted to Islam, all of the Muslim leaders who called for the murder of Salman Rushdie should have been convicted of hate speech. They are inciting violence, and it led to the murder of the Japanese translator of Salman Rushdie's book, The Satanic Verses. It led to the stabbing of his Swedish translator. Every single one of those should be in a UN court having to answer because their speeches did result in violence.
There's Muslims that they want to become Christian, they have no freedom to leave Islam. The penalty of leaving Islam is death. For a Muslim to become Christian, he will be persecuted in his own country. There is no freedom. They don't know no democracy.
If anyone renounces Islam and becomes a Christian or an atheist, the Islamic law is very clear. Kill him. That is no religious freedom.
Go and see how many people in the last 20 years, 30 years, coming to your countries in asylum cases, coming running from the persecution under the Islamic governments.
You are not allowed to question anything they say. You don't bring up any questions. You don't even pose any questions. That's why we see in Iran today these students who are basically wanting freedom because there is no freedom there to speak.
Today we have two choices: to become Muslims or to be killed. If I know the people are in danger and I did not tell them, I'm going to be guilty.
All ideas must compete in the marketplace of ideas. Whether or not the Quran teaches jihad is a matter of record. It does.
Around the world is 1.5 billion Muslims. If we say just 10% of the Muslims following the command of Muhammad, or just 10% that they would really like to become like Muhammad, we will have over 150 million Muslim terrorists. If we want to be really nice and say just 1%, we will end it at having 15 million Muslims willing to blow themselves up and killing infidels in the name of Allah.